is asleep. My phone's asleep so bad. I've tried recording this so many times that everybody wants to talk right now, and I need a better system, I think, for recording. But anyways, my name is Sarah. Welcome back, or welcome if you're new. I want to do something a little bit different today where I talk about books that have altered my brain chemistry. But when I say alter my brain chemistry, I mean it's refueled my passion for reading. I used to be a big reader when I was younger. I read The Hunger Games, Divergent, what else did I don't know why I look so scared. Hunger Games, Divergent. I read that one book where the girl was sick, and but she was never sick. Her mom just had Munchausen by proxy. I just read a lot when I was in high school, from elementary school to high school. I want to say I read a lot, and then I got to college and reading was not fun anymore for me, and so I stopped. But within the last year, picked up reading again, and I remembered how much I loved it. Also, my hair is just a mess. It's just really poofy on the side, and I don't know. I'm not going to do anything about that. It's just going to bother me this whole time, so have fun with that. But, with that being said, I want to get into today's video. Like I said, it's about books that have really altered my want to read again. And if after seeing this you have a book recommendation, please give it to me. And if it's bad, I'm going to be very upset. So, let's get into it. But this book is so good. I think, okay, I've tried recording this multiple times, and I have not read the synopsis. I think I'm going to read the synopsis, talk about it, and then we'll go from there. I think that's how this format's going to go. So, for the synopsis, reclusive Hollywood icon Evelyn Hugo is finally ready to tell the truth about her glamorous and scandalous life. When she chooses unknown magazine reporter Monique Grant to write her story, no one is more astounded than Monique herself. Determined to use this opportunity to jumpstart her career, Monique listens in fascination. From making her way to Los Angeles in the 1950s to leaving the show business in the 80s, and of course, the 7 husbands along the way, Evelyn unspools a tale of ruthless ambition, unexpected friendship, and a great forbidden love. But as Evelyn's story nears its conclusion, it becomes clear that her life intersects with Monique's in its own tragic and irreversible way. So, and this is the last paragraph. Written with Reed's signature talent for creating complex, likable characters, this mesmerizing journey through a splendor of old Hollywood into the somber realities of the present day as two women struggles with what it means and what it costs to face the truth. This book, you gotta think if you end up reading this, you have to think Marilyn Monroe, Elizabeth Taylor, just the starlights of early Hollywood, like it said. And I don't want to get into spoilers with these books because I really, really want you to read these on your own. And when I first read this book, I had actually already heard the whole story from Stephanie Sue, which love her content. She's the whole reason I read that book. But it's definitely you have to read it yourself before watching it, listening to anything about this book, just because the way Jenkins Reid talk or writes, like it said, it's very mesmerizing. It's very I want to know more. It makes me feel like I'm reading this and it's a real person telling me the story, or I'm reading the actual magazine that it came from. I can't describe the feeling, but just reading it gave me goosebumps even if I already knew the story going in. So I can only imagine what it feels like for somebody who has never read this book before. I actually went in and highlighted a whole bunch of this because I was going to make a YouTube video about it, and I didn't. I was going to do what Stephanie Sue did, but I don't think I could ever do that, so I didn't. So now it's half highlighted, half beat up because my cat spilled water on it when I was in that room. But that's why it looks big. It's really not that big. It's really thin. It's an easy read. I'd highly recommend that book if you're interested in that and old Hollywood money type stuff. So, next book. Next one is I'm on a kick with her books. I took this one when I went on my trip to Hawaii last year, and this was so good. It just looking at it gives me beautiful memories, but so funny. But okay, for the synopsis, we have at the age of 28, Hannah Martin still has no idea what she wants to do with her life. She has lived in 6 different cities and has held down countless meaningless jobs since college. But on the heels of a disastrous breakup, has finally returned to her hometown of Los Angeles. To celebrate her first night back, her best friend Gabby takes Hannah out to a bar, where she bumps into her high school boyfriend, Ethan. It's just past midnight when Gabby asks Hannah if she's ready to go. Ethan quickly offers to give her a ride later if she wants to stay. Hannah hesitates. What happens if she leaves with Gabby? What happens if she leaves with Ethan? In concurrent storylines, Hannah lives out the effects of each decision. Quickly, these parallel universes develop into surprisingly different stories with far-reaching consequences for Hannah and the people around her, raising questions including, is anything meant to be? How much in our lives is determined by chance? And perhaps the most compelling, is there such a thing as a soulmate? Hannah believes there is, and in both worlds, she believes she found them. That, like, I don't know, just the way, like, even the synopsis of these books, like, I get goosebumps just reading that because, hello, what's going on? But I'm really not going to get into the book itself. I really think you need to go in and read this blind. Like, any book, honestly. If you're really interested in, like, those concepts of, like, soulmates or, like, what happens, like, is anything chance? Are we really deciding our own fates in life? This book definitely, like, makes you think. And, like I said, like, or like the book says, it's two different storylines, and I really don't know which one I like more for her, just because of the character in certain aspects is annoying in each instance, but that's just me. That's just how I feel. I definitely think it's worth a read if you're interested in stuff like that, though. And again, if you like Taylor Jenkins Reid, those two are the only books I've read by her, but I love them, and I've been thinking about picking up her other books because she does have a lot. And a lot of them are actually going to turn into, like, movies and stuff, so I check them out. I like to read before books get turned into movies and stuff, but that's just me. Next book. This one is a lot different than the other 4 books I'm talking about, only because this is like a true crime book, and for some reason I was just going back into my true crime vibe where I just wanted to inhale true crime stuff. Okay. Synopsis. Celebrating her 45th birthday at the hot new local pub, popular podcaster Alex Summer crosses paths with an unassuming woman called Josie Fair. Josie, it turns out to be, is also celebrating her 45th birthday. They are, in fact, birthday twins. A few days later, Alex and Josie bump into each other again, this time outside Alex's children's school. Josie has been listening to Alex's podcast and thinks she might be an interesting subject for her series. She tells Alex, on the cusp of great life changes. Josie's life appears to be strange and complicated, and although Alex finds her unsettling, she can't quite resist the temptation to keep going on the project. Slowly, she starts to realize that Josie is hiding something some very dark secrets. Before she knows it, Josie is engraved, which is not a word, into Alex's life and into her home. But as quickly as she arrived, Josie Fair disappears. Only then does Alex discover Josie has left a terrible and terrifying legacy in her wake, and that Alex has become the subject of her own true crime podcast, with her life and her family's lives in grave danger. So, yeah, that one's a little bit different. It's more like crime junkie. Like, I really pictured Alex Summers as, like, Ashley Flowers, almost, is what it felt like. It definitely felt like that was the vibe they were going for her. I was also really into true crime podcasts and stuff like that. I listened to Crime Junkie, obviously. I got my mom into, like, a bunch of them, like, the murder podcasts. And then there's one also I like called Something Was Wrong that I'll listen to every now and then still. But if you really like true crime stuff, I would definitely recommend that one. If you're not a fan of, like, big twists, I wouldn't really recommend it. Just because I feel like that one's a different... Like I said, it's definitely a different vibe than the other books I'm talking about. But it's really up to you. I'm gonna leave player's choice on that. But if you really like that stuff, I liked it the way it was written. I think this was the only book I actually finished, like, within a day. Like, I bought it, like, one night, and I finished it by, like, the next day or something like that. Like, I was quick with it. I was really quick with it. But definitely recommend it if you're interested. So, next book. This author messes me up really bad. History is seldom kind. In Minjinlee's best-selling majestical epic, 4 generations of a poor, proud immigrant family fight to control their destinies. Exiled from their homeland they never knew. In the early 1900s, teenage Sunja, the adored daughter of a crippled fisherman, falls for a wealthy stranger at a seashore near her home in Korea. He promises her the world, but when she discovers she's pregnant and that her lover is married, she refuses to be bought. Instead, she accepts an offer of marriage from a gentle, sickly minister passing through on his way to Japan. But her decision to abandon her home and reject her son's powerful father sets off a dramatic saga that will echo down through generations. Richly told and profoundly moving, Pachinko is a story of love, sacrifice, ambition, and loyalty. From the bustling streets, markets, to the halls of Japan's finest universities, to Pachinko parlors of the criminal underworld, these complex and passionate characters, along strong, stubborn women, devoted sisters and sons, fathers shaken by moral crises, survive and thrive against the indifferent arc of history. This one messed me up. There's also, if you don't want to read this book specifically, there is a show on Apple TV, same name. I think it is a little bit different just from, I started it with my younger sibling who had already read this book, and then when I went and watched it, it is really different just because it does dive more into like 80s to the past with like the grandma. So I don't know, it is a lot different. The storyline is very similar, I still think, but it's, again, this one's up to you if you want to like read the book or the movie. But the book, the way this author writes just messes me up. It's so like realistic. Again, like the kind of like with how Jenkins writes, this one, like, she's very realistic, but the way it's just different. Like Jenkins is realistic, but it's more like optimistic realism, where this one is very pessimistic realism, if that makes sense. And I like both. But I really think if you want like a more realistic, more grounded, more gritty telling of like obviously it's not real, but if you're wanting a more realistic story, I would definitely go with this one, this author specifically. But if you want a more like upbeat story, I would definitely go with the other ones. I don't know, I would kind of compare this one to Seven Husbands, just because it's a little, like, those two are like a little bit more realistic, things play out, but she's consistent with how she writes, I'll tell you that much. Okay, last book I have for us today. This one I cried. This one made me sob. This one made me contemplate life. National Book Award finalist minjinlee introduces the incredible Casey Han, a strong-willed, Queens-bred daughter of Korean immigrants who is addicted to a glamorous Manhattan lifestyle she cannot afford. Fresh out of Princeton with an economics degree, no job, and a popular white boyfriend, Casey is determined to carve a space for herself in the glittering world that she craves, but at what cost? Lee's best-selling, sharp-eyed, sweeping epic of love, greed, and hunger set a landscape where millionaires scramble for the free lunches the poor are too proud to accept. Addictively readable, startling, sympathetic portrayal of intergenerational strife and immigrant struggle, exposing the intricate layers of a community clinging to its old ways, packed in a city with haves and have-nots. Okay, this one I'm gonna talk about just a little bit more, just because okay, so this one messed me up specifically because I related a lot to the main character. She was like mid-20s when she graduated college, no job. No, like, I don't want to say she didn't have any prospects in life, but there was definitely no plan post-college, which I can relate to. She loves living a glamorous life. I can relate to that. She got herself into debt. Relatable. I've done that. Things that happened in the story that I just related to a little bit too intensely, and I was like, did she write this for me? That could have been the case. I think I wrote this in the script, but basically it just feels like a love letter to people struggling a little bit. I mean, it is more not... trying to think of my words here. I don't want to say it's specifically for people that are struggling. I think it is definitely written more for people who grew up in like immigrant families, which I didn't, but I can see how this would definitely impact somebody who grew up in that or struggled with like immigrant stuff, like the immigrant, like first, like immigrant families or anything like that. Like I've never had that really, so I really think this was meant for somebody like, I mean, not meant, because like anybody can read the book, But I think it would resonate most with people who have been in those situations. I just resonated from the fact that I feel like I had like a sense of entitlement that the world owed me something for whatever reason, which is not the case. I think it's worth the read. I think if you really want your feelings hurt, you should read that book. It doesn't have a happy ending at all either. Like the other books, at least, even like I don't even think Pachinko had a happy ending. I think 2 out of the 5 books I talk about have a happy ending. Actually, one of them had. I mean, debatable. I don't think any of the books I like have happy endings. Very different. They're very different speeds of books I'm reading. Again, if you read these and then have any recommendations, I will gladly take them, because I bought a book based on a show that I could barely watch, and then I only liked at the very end of the show. I read the first page and I'm like, why did I buy this? I wasted money. But anyways, that being said, I hope you enjoyed this episode. I know it's a little bit different. I don't know how it's gonna come out editing wise, just because I'm always very scatterbrained when I record. I'll make scripts for myself and then I don't follow them, or I like look too much at the scripts and the editing comes out weird in my opinion, but that's just me. If you like it, you like it. Or you don't. That's up to you. That being said, I hope you're having a great day. Hope you're having a great night, great evening, whenever you're watching this. And I hope you come back and check me out soon. Bye.